Well, hello, avid readers. I am here with my friend Suzanne Woods Fisher. Let me get that right. Suzanne, welcome. I'm so glad to have you here again. Why don't you start by telling us a little bit about yourself?
Well, thank you for having me. I appreciate that. We go back a long ways because
Yes,
I think I met you at maybe like a Christie Award, something
I
like that,
think
way,
so.
way
Yeah,
back.
yeah, long time
UCLA
ago.
maybe. Yeah, way back. And so I am a writer actually have been at Revell Books for virtually all my books and the same editor.
That is amazing.
I know, front and back of the house. The acquisitions editor is the one you work with, and then when she passes it and accepts it, it goes to a project editor. And I've had the same one, and it's been such a really special relationship because it's now getting close to 50 books. If you can, I
Wow.
know. I can't believe that either. I feel sometimes like when people ask you, well, how do you think of all these things? And I just feel like Anne Lamott's comment, bird by bird. You just
Yeah,
go,
one at a time.
yeah, yeah, and the story unfolds. But I live out in the San Francisco Bay Area. I have a very large family. I had 4 kids who are all married with families of their own now, and they live all over, including one in the south of France,
Oh,
and
wow.
one in Arkansas near
Yeah,
you, and
very
I
close
live
to me. Yeah.
very close, and I really enjoyed visiting. They just found out they're gonna be transferred back this summer, so back to the Bay Area. So that was probably our last trip to Arkansas because it's not an easy place to get to. It's
No, it isn't. Like,
no,
yeah, there's no direct flights to Arkansas.
anywhere.
Yeah.
But loved it. It strikes me as a place that's just a beautiful place to live.
It's like a hidden jewel. Don't tell too many
Right,
people.
right. It's really lovely. It's very Midwestern. So we had
Hmm.
these 2 days of travel that were sunny, beautiful days, and then the 3 days in between were just rocking thunderstorms, like literally the house shook kind of thunderstorms,
Yes,
but it's fun. Arkansas is a really special place. A
it
lot of
is. It is.
good people. So anyway, I have a lot of grandchildren. In fact, it just starts exploding when you have 4 kids, and
Yeah.
that's where I am now with over a dozen, and it's just amazing how fast it goes, and it's really the best time of life. I can't
Yes.
imagine. It is such a joy to be the age I am and to watch my family all moving forward in the right ways. So
I
that's
love all that.
me.
Yeah. Okay. So we're going to be talking about your new book today, which I have a copy here. I was just sitting, speaking of Arkansas, sitting in my backyard. It's beautiful today. It's sunny. There's no rain or thunderstorms. I'm sitting in the back swing. I'm enjoying your book with my cup of water and my dogs are on my feet. So I love it. So capture the moment. And I don't know if we could get it. There's an angle to it, but this is like raised lens cap, reflecting the beauty of the Grand Tetons. So I'm so excited.
And
Yes.
and deep inside, if you look carefully in the lens, and I had to ask
Oh,
to have
there
this,
is a bear.
there's a
I
bear.
did not notice that.
Yeah.
I was looking literally at the mountains.
And they're so beautiful. And that's when the art director sent it to me, that was the picture, and it's a beautiful picture. The
Yes.
cover is very, very captivating. And I just said, I just can you put a bear in there? And she did. And I'm so happy because this story is all about really a hunt for a bear,
A
which
hunt
kind
for
of
a
sounds
bear.
like a funny, it maybe doesn't sound that interesting, but it is really interesting because this bear is like no other. She's a real bear. She's a story I came across a while ago, and we can talk about that. But
Yeah, let's talk about that first because, like, how you got the idea, and then we'll talk about its wildlife photography. But there's also other hunts for the bear. We won't go. Yeah, we'll talk about all these things. But I would just love to hear like where you got the idea for the story.
for the bear, well, I was introduced to this bear, and her name is actually number 399. She was the 399th bear tagged in the Yellowstone Grand Teton larger
Mhm.
region. There's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of bears, and yet this one bear is just has caught people's imagination for a number of reasons. She generally spends her time down in Grand Teton, and she is the oldest living bear who continues to reproduce.
Wow.
A few years ago, she appeared out of in the spring with quadruplets, which is no small task because not only is she nursing them, but she's also teaching them She's gotta take care of herself, she's gotta teach them to hunt, she's gotta protect them, and one thing that she has learned in her care of her her brood, is that if she stayed closer to people, then the male grizzlies who go after the cubs because they wanna mate with the female and get back to business,
Mm,
the males don't go close to people. So she has taught her cubs to have a healthy distance from people.
right.
She'll go down to the road, and Trisha, she's taught them to look left and right before they cross the road. I
Oh
know.
my goodness.
She's just really captured the imagination of people, I think mainly because all of a sudden we see qualities in her that you feel a little connection with, that maternal instinct.
Right.
There was a time when one of her cubs, she had a singleton and the cub named Snowy because he had sort of a whitish face and he was hit by a car, and
Oh,
she was found grieving, moaning, and crying at the over his body, and it's things like that, those moments have just given people probably too much personification of her, but she's really become this iconic bear of the Grand Tetons. She's waiting for her to emerge from hibernation every spring. Will she or won't she? It's just she's just really she's all over Jackson. I mean, anywhere you go, you're gonna see photographs of her, you're gonna see paintings. I think now there's even a statue. There's a PBS documentary about her. She's just a
wow.
really special bear. I say that, she's an 800-pound
Yeah.
predator.
Yeah.
So, I'm not trying to
Don't
make
go
her
yeah, you're not gonna cuddle with this type of bear.
right, yeah, have a healthy respect, but I think she has taught people so much about learning to live with wildlife and letting them be wild and not interfering with them, but also coexisting to a degree. That's what kind of prompted my story. I just was captivated by 399. My husband and
Mm,
I had a special anniversary. We went to the Grand Teton and really, I just fell in love with that place. That should be
yes.
everybody's bucket list. We can talk more about the national parks, but I mean, this is a park that is so unique. It's just a valley floor and then these steep
Yeah.
granite mountains and the Snake River winding through and these beautiful lodges and horses and elk reserves and the town of Jackson is so hip and cool and it is just a place that everybody should try to get to.
Yeah. And I love that the bear sparked the idea.
Yeah.
Like, so you start with the bear and then you like wrap this story around around the idea of the bear. And so your main character, Kate, is a wildlife photographer. And then we have Cooper,
Yeah.
who has to protect her or guide her. And basically, he's like, "You want me to walk around with the paparazzi, bear paparazzi? Like this is what you want me to do?" He's a biology teacher in the summer, spending time up in the mountains, and so he does not want to deal with the people. He wants to be up in the mountains, and now he has to be connected. And then there's also rumor, and this is right in the beginning, so I'm not giving away. There's rumor
Yeah.
that someone wants to poach
Someone's after
Green.
another shot of the bear.
Yes, yes. But I also love all the characters. So you have the Dolly Parton-ish, who's the head park ranger, and then you have a teen who is with the Youth Conservation Corps. Okay, so in high school, that was my high school summer job. I was with the Youth Conservation Corps in Northern California, so in the Mount Shasta area. And so we were like doing brush piles, we were clearing fire lines, because I was like, I could either work at McDonald's or I could be outside getting fit up in the mountains and getting a tan. And so that's what I did for my summers for a couple of years was the Youth
Okay.
Conservation Corps in Northern
Am I
California.
remembering correctly that you live in Weed, California?
I grew up in Weed, California. Yes. So right by Mount Shasta. So
When
yes,
I go north, I think of you when we pass through Weed because
everyone does. Like once they hear me say that, everyone like I'll get text messages or emails like, I went through Weed. I stopped in Weed. Here's a picture of Weed. So
it's
that's the
just
name of the town is Weed. Yeah.
and I'm sure there's a great story for it, but in this climate, it is such waiting for jokes,
It's
It is
it is so funny because like when I was a high school cheerleader, and so it's like tumbleweed or weed eat, all the weed or smoke weed, like all the signs for all the neighboring because I was a cheerleader and all the signs. It was named after Abner Weed, who was the
See,
lumber mill there. And
yeah.
my grandma, every time someone would say something like smoke weed or tumbleweed, she'd be like, it was named after a man, Abner
Yeah.
Weed. So she was like very like, this is
I love it.
not,
I can see her elbows.
yeah, we're not smoking weed around here. Although now it's like popular for that. Like there's t-shirts and all that kind of
Oh,
stuff.
yeah.
Yeah.
This is California, Northern
This is
California.
California. So Northern California, well, Bay Area is there's rural areas around the Bay Area too, but Northern California,
Yeah,
like we're talking mountains and
yeah,
like snow on the mountains most of the year. Like this is different. This is not like people think of California.
yeah.
Yeah. And
So
then I
much of
lived in
California.
Montana for 15 years.
Oh,
So just opening up the book, it's just like so much of it. I'm like, Youth Conservation Corps. And then we have Up in the Mountains. And yeah, so I've just like immediately like, I love this book so
oh, I
much.
hope you enjoy it. I hope it rings true for you. Or it's someone was asking me in another interview about how do you translate what you see into what
Mhm.
you write? And it really is because Grand Teton becomes part of the story. It is really
Yes.
one of the main characters. And so
Yes.
to kind of capture it accurately is is not easy to do. And I hope I people will want to finish the book and want to go there. That would make me really happy because this is kind of my mantra right now, but I just feel the national parks are what makes us all Americans. Like when we go to those
Yes.
parks, we are so proud of our country and proud of its history and what's it's doing now and what it's doing in the future for our children and grandchildren and great grandchildren. And I feel like our country needs that so badly. The feeling of being united in the things that
Yes.
really bring us together instead of what's always
And I think
divided.
people are appreciating them more. They're going that's like a big vacation destination where people before would be going to Europe or going to other places. Now we're really appreciating and enjoying our national parks more than I
Yeah.
think we have before. And I will say, so we lived right outside of Glacier National Park during our 15 years in Montana. And I've been to Yellowstone, I've been to these other Grand Teton. But I will say, like, right from the beginning, as a native during that time living there, it was very true to life. Like these dumb tourists, like
Yeah.
because while people are coming to visit, they're just often not very smart. Like just remember news reports all the time. Like tourists get there, pull over, get in a canoe with their 2 kids. The day they arrive, the weather, the water's not suitable for toddlers in a canoe, and then like they're having doing search and rescue, like all the things that tourists do all the time in the national parks. You're like, no, like why would you do that? And so, like right from the beginning, Coop is like, I don't even want it. He's in trouble because he basically told the tourists they were not being very wise, but not in those words. But
I think he called them idiots.
we call them idiots. But right from the beginning, it's just like, oh yes, like you captured it so
Oh,
well. So
good.
like it's not just like the setting, but like this is our attitude. This is what we deal with. This is the wildlife. Like my son would stay at his friend's house and there'd be bears in the backyard. Like it's just that is life.
Mhm.
And I love that right from the beginning you are immersed in that. So you definitely
Yeah,
did a great job in for
yeah,
someone who's like been in that type of area for
yeah.
many, many years. It's like, okay, yeah, this is feels like coming home. So yeah, I loved it.
Well, I wanted to back up a little bit on Kate Cunningham because she's actually a fish out of water in this setting.
Mhm.
She's a zoo photographer. She grew up in a very proper, traditional, academic East Coast family, the kind that doesn't change their wallpaper ever, ever. Because
Yeah.
you know, I grew up in the East Coast. I
Yeah.
can think of a lot of people that this
You're like, "Yeah, this is feel like I can relate to this too." Yeah.
we don't change anything ever. And she just had probably some undiagnosed dyslexia or reading issues in
Mm.
school was always so hard for her, and she just never fit. So finally she gets into zoo photography, and that is just where she's finding herself. She loves it. She is clever. She uses it in really fun ways. She creates captions for animals for the part or for the zoo for Instagram and all. And one day a National Geographic editor spots her photographing some bears and kind of dangles a carrot in front of her and says, you know, there's a bear in Grand Teton that we would love
Mhm.
a very unique photo. And if you can get it, I promise I will take a look at it. And that's all Kate needs. She has been observing animal behavior for years now, and she's convinced she can take all those skills and go to the wilderness. Mm.
Which is
And
zoos and
well,
wilderness are very different.
like amazing. Yeah, and not only that, but this bear has really paparazzi. It is a bear
Mhm.
that photographers, I think 35 to 40 plus photographers are setting up every year, every spring to get photographs of this bear coming out of hibernation. And this is their livelihood. They make their living off of this. They're not just hobbyists. So she's trying to fit in and they're pushing her out and squeezing her out, not giving her space. And then they find out she worked in a zoo and they call her zoo girl. And that's why the ranger, who doesn't really would rather be with bears than people, Coop, why he takes a little bit of pity on her because she just keeps
Mhm.
getting herself into situations that, for example, she forgets to turn her cell phone off. In the zoo, animals are so conditioned to
Yeah.
noise, to human sounds, not in the wild, or how their feeding times become synchronistic because that's what happens in a zoo, not in the wild, that kind of thing.
Mhm.
All those little things that she's kind of having to adjust, but she doesn't give up. She keeps trying. She also has a boyfriend, so I don't mean to make this sound like a really cut and dry love story because it's not. Coop has some baggage. She has a boyfriend who is very much in the story,
Yeah.
and they're trying to work things through as well. So it's kind of a fun story. And I did something with an interlude of this poacher. And again, 399 truly does have people who have been after her. And this
Mhm.
one poacher in particular is a very skilled poacher. And I want to be clear, poaching is not the same thing as hunting for your family. You know, I'm
Right.
not I really want to clarify that poaching is illegal. It is really for the black market. It is disregarding much of the animal's body because they just want certain parts that can be shipped
Yeah.
overseas. So poaching is bad, and this is a bad actor, and I yet he's incredibly skillful. Like he is a brilliant man.
Mm.
And so I have a chapter interlude in between, or like in between the chapters is an interlude in the poacher's point of view, so that you actually get to know him as a person and why did he get this way and where did it start for him and what does he want out of this? But he has a hope for a new rug for his living room out of this bear, as Kate is working on trying to get the fabulous, unique shot of this bear. So they're sort of colliding. They
You're
come
seeing the danger, like danger is coming as the
yeah.
book goes along. Yeah. I always love the point of view of villains.
Oh,
It's just interesting to like get in their heads and like figure them out because there's always like good points to every villain. Like there's always you have to have something that has to be, you
or
know,
what tipped them?
or what tipped them or
Where
what's
did it
happening
go
with
for
them. Yeah,
them?
yeah. How did they get to be where they are? Or
Always the
yeah.
parents' fault.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah. I love this. Okay, so for your research, tell us about that. And I wanna know how close you got to bears. Like, did you get close to bears, or did you get to observe bears, or, like, what happened?
Yeah, I definitely did. I seen 399, for example? That was my hope. I saw her daughters. I saw,
Oh,
some other grizzlies from a distance. The
mhm.
rangers in especially the US Rangers are so protective of the bears and protective of people too. And one of their they're not allowed to make fun of people, but they're so I can't imagine their what they talk about around the coffee or, like, just like, the whole thing about patting the bison up in Yellowstone, like, "Don't
Yeah,
pat the fluffy cloud,"
yeah, don't
and yet people
all the
do.
time. Every, like, summer, there's this tourist said this tourist said that. So we're like, "Oh." Yeah.
Well, and even grizzlies that are really the ultimate predator,
Mhm.
I think there's usually, like, a average in the US, in the Western states, 30 to 40 attacks every year, and they're
Yeah.
usually because people have fed them or they've surprised them or they've done something stupid or they've traveled alone, and then usually 3 to 4 people die every year
Mhm,
from a
mhm.
grizzly, but it's not it could be avoided, they aren't really looking to chew up humans, but it is sort of a sad story, and it's especially when people feed bears and thinks it's funny because it's usually the bear that'll get euthanized
Yeah.
because they're getting so accustomed to people. So the rangers do a very good job of protecting people from stupidity, protecting bears from people, and so you can't get too close. They're on it. I mean, there are so many rangers are I've actually been up in Canada and observed grizzlies also, and it might have just been where I was, but the Canadian Rangers have more of of a sense of like, if you don't bring your common sense with you when you go into a national park, we can't get it for you.
Yeah. Yeah, I was in Alaska and we were at a national park in Juneau. I can't remember the name of it. Anyway, but there was bears, like, we were on this little bridge thing, and the bear was right, like, 6 feet under us. It wasn't a grizzly, but it was a black bear, catching salmon, like,
Mhm,
stalking them, and it was, like, that close, but the ranger was right there
mhm,
and, like, monitoring the situations, like, we were able to stand up there and take photos, and the bear goes up and down the river, like, the bear's not interested in climbing around and getting up on the bridge where the people are. He's
mhm.
interested in the salmon, but it was like being that close. It
Yeah,
was just amazing. And the rangers are like, these are old bears. They're not gonna want to hunt you. They're interested in the fish. So I love that the rangers know the bears. They like know the individual
yeah,
bears. They know their personalities. They're like, oh, this one's trouble. We're gonna go chase this one away because he'll
so
get in
true.
people's faces. So they it's like they just like kids. Like they know they know different
Yeah.
personalities and how they're gonna act. And yeah, I love that.
Yeah, I like how you said that too, and, one thing I loved I know what you mean up in Alaska, we've gone up there and seen Brooks Falls where the salmon
Mhm.
are running, and
Yeah.
grizzlies are solitary animals, you don't see too many of
Mhm.
them together, rarely, but during the salmon runs,
Mhm.
they are so focused on getting their food for the winter and getting that delicious salmon, parts of it anyway, and they're just side by side, they're just sort of letting each other, and it's such a picture of heaven to me where there's
Mhm.
just plenty and there's enough, and the competition of the wilderness is no longer that the bear and the lamb can lie down together,
Yeah, I love that, but they can move fast. Because I remember we were walking over the bridge and we heard this rumbling. It was like a freight train, and this bear came so fast, and she was chasing a salmon, and we're like way faster than you even imagine, like horse speed. Like it was like super fast. And I think there's so many things that we don't understand, like how fast they are. Like you, how how again, solitary or they're quiet also. Like there can be some that could sneak up on you. I've had friends that have been attacked by bears. They were hunting and turn around and there's a grizzly bear. I mean, so many things, but it's so fascinating. And I love that this is tied in with Kate and Coop, and there's bears and there's poachers. And so right from the beginning, there's trouble coming. She's inexperienced. He's like idiots for the tourists. And then
Yeah,
you have these other characters popping in, and I just love it. There's like so many wonderful things. And I know that this is like going to be part of a national park series.
yes.
So it says, because it says National Park Summers right under here. So I'm like, okay, that means there's going to be more. So tell
Mhm.
us more. So the first one is again, Capture the Moment is the first one with a wildlife photographer. Can you tell us more about the other books or even, some ideas of what to expect?
Thank you for asking. So I just turned in the manuscript for book 2, and that is set in Acadia National Park, way over in Maine.
Oh,
Very
yes.
different because this is a park that is really an islands, an ocean, and the coast of Maine that is so beautiful and rocky and dangerous in its own way. And it's actually a story about a shipwreck and buried
Oh.
treasure found in the national park.
Mhm.
I bring in some, the treasure that was found was originally intended for the Penobscot Nation, so I have some complexities there of where the money is, how to get it to the right person, on and on like that, but I loved it. It was very different from this story, and yet, again, another picture of our national parks and the history because both of the stories. Oh, and just to finish, I'm not sure yet on number 3. I think my
Okay,
editor
yeah.
wants one park and I want another, so
You
TBD.
flip a coin, flip a coin.
Yeah, we'll see who wins that. But I feel as if the thing that's so intriguing about our parks is that there is so much history beyond just US, American Western going frontier history. There is so much with the Native Americans or the indigenous people. And I
Mhm.
think when you go to these parks, it's really important. For example, Grand Teton has this history of really a beautiful, rich history of the indigenous people. Then you have a period of the trappers
Yeah,
coming through
yeah.
and their rendezvous, which was sort of interesting, part of our history. And then you have a time when a large group of Mormons came and they tried to live in the valley floor, and they're still remnants of they didn't last long. I think the winters just were wiped them out. But
Yeah.
this barn that is there, I think it's called the Molten Barn. It is one of the most photographed barns in all of America. In fact, I think most
Oh, wow.
everyone would recognize it. So you have so much unique history, and then even John D. Rockefeller and how the Grand Teton grew and grew and grew with sort of cleverly buying up the land and donating it to the government, and on and on. And now the elk reserve. There's just
Yeah.
it just keeps going, and I think there'll be more and more history to come. But I just encourage everyone when they go to these parks to look deep and find the stories that sort of echo.
Yeah, and I love Acadia. It has lighthouses, the ocean's right there. I was there in November. My husband was there for work in Bar Harbor, and it was so cold. Like we drove around, we would get out and take photos real quick and jump back in the car and like warm up and then drive around some more. And I think it is the first place where light touches the United States.
Cadillac
Um,
Mountain,
okay, yeah.
which is Cadillac the car. That was a French explorer, and that's he's the same guy that, ended up in Detroit. But you can get there and see, and it's not like a mountain that's like a mountain top. It's actually just
Right.
reaches down to the shoreline, but you see, yeah, they see the sun rise. And Trisha, it's so interesting when I've been there, just you turn behind you and it's so black, it's so dark, but you turn in the front and the light just fills the horizon. It's
I
just
don't know what it
fascinating.
is about Maine. I've never been in darkness like Maine. Like
Oh,
driving at night, like we would go because my husband worked for the Forest Service, doing computers, or a company that worked for the Forest Service. And so we'd have to drive from like through forest to forest stations. But it was like so dark. It feels like your headlights weren't even penetrating the darkness. I
mm,
don't know. I mean, it was only we're like we're talking about blacker than the inside of a black cow. Like
yeah.
it's we've been all over the world, and it's like I don't even know what it is about me. Maybe if you know, you can let us know. Let us know why it's so dark, and it's just yeah. And so when that light comes, like you're right, the contrast is amazing.
It is. It's really just when you think of the Lord, the first words out of God's mouth, "Let there be light," and it's just like how it changes everything. Just
Hmm.
beautiful, really awe-striking, which all these national parks, whether it's Mesa Verde, whether it's, Dark Sky Park, I mean, you are caught in awe. Grand
Hmm.
Canyon, think of just these moments of absolute you're in the midst of something much greater than yourself, and
Yeah.
when you believe in a loving God, it is really a good feeling.
Yeah, and I'm so glad that they're there for us, like, that people ahead, like, from the
Mm,
past thought ahead and, like, preserve those parks.
yeah.
Yeah, it's so amazing. Okay, I am so excited. So we know Capture the Moment is out now or soon,
Yeah, soon.
soon, and then do you have a title for book 2? Can you tell us at all or
I don't. It's really
Okay,
it's actually it's with a sensitivity reader because I use
okay.
it because of bringing in the indigenous people and Native Americans, First People. I'm not totally sure where that's gonna
Yeah,
land, but,
yeah.
so it's really at that stage, but I know my editor loved it, and so I
Yay!
really was happy that it conveyed everything because all these books also are love stories. They are. They're
Mhm,
just
mhm.
and how a relationship grows in a situation like a national park is really kind of fun.
Yeah,
Kind of
I
strips
love
away
it.
all the things you think, and you're suddenly really, really who you are is revealed.
I love it. Well, I guess we could figure out where you're gonna be right about next. We could just follow you on social media and see where you go vacation, right?
Yeah, but 2 years ahead.
Okay, 2 years ahead.
I might have already done it.
Okay, okay, alright. Well, Suzanne, where can people go to find more information about Capture the Moment or all of your other books?
I think my website is the best place, www.suzannewoods, with an S, Fisher, just like it sounds, .com, and there's a place to sign up for my newsletter, and I really try to take very good care of my readers and always let them be the first for everything, the first
I love it.
cover reveal, the first giveaways, the first contests, the first just news and family news. And then of course I hang out on Instagram a lot and Facebook. I need to hang out on Facebook a little more. I forget about it sometimes because Instagram's just so easy and quick.
Yeah, yeah. Well, great. Well, we're gonna put all those links in the show notes, but
Thank
thank you,
you.
Suzanne, for being here.
Thank you.